professional development. Oh, thank you. And let you know that this is being recorded. So just wanted everybody to be aware. We're going to start with an introduction of our panelists. Then we're going to have a short presentation by Danielle Smith on our emerging professionals program at Licensure. And then we're going to have a panel discussion with everyone, and just want everyone to please feel free to post. If you have a question during this, please feel free to put it in the chat. We'll monitor that, but also raise your hand. We want this to be informal. We want this to be a conversation. I have some questions for the panelists. I'm hoping that that will answer some questions for you as well, and that this will be a really good conversation. So before we get started, we are going to have, we want to get some information from the audience. So I'm about to launch a poll, a question for the group. If you can, I'm hoping that that popped up.
Yep.
If you all can answer this question. And once we have pretty much everybody has been able to answer the question, how many do we have? I've gotten 11 answers. I guess we have the polling. So I'm going to take this down, and I don't know how to share results. Danny knows how to.
Oh,
Sure.
I think you're the only one that can do it because you're running the
You have to
polls.
end the poll. Oh, so now I can say share results.
There you go.
So there we go. So we've got a little mix of everybody. And so I don't know what the something else is, but we are going to ask that question as we go. Oh, that would be Kirsten. There you go. And so I think that we're going to have some good information for everybody as part of this. And so second question, let me find it again. Stop, share results. I don't know how to go to, there it is. And I'm going to do this one. And so again, let's just take some time or just get some information about how long you've been, what you are, whatever you are. And give it a few more seconds. Let everybody vote. Huh. Interesting. Oh, this is a really interesting. So I'm going to end this poll and I'm going to share results. So this is surprising to me that we really have a lot of people that have over 10 years of experience. So I think that that's interesting. And a lot of people that are right there in the middle. So hopefully we're going to be sharing some information that will either help you get started or sort of kickstart as to why you should get licensed and all that. So again, I want to welcome everybody to this presentation. It's on licensure and certification. My name is Carol Lanham. I am the Director of Mentorship for AWA+D, and I am an architect at Licensure, and I am thrilled that all of you are here today. And so I want to introduce our panelists. I'm not the best at this. I might not. And so who we've got with us today are Danielle Smith. And Danielle is a structural engineer and a project manager at Licensure in our Sacramento office. She has more than 16 years of experience, extensive experience in healthcare markets, including OSHPD reviews. And she is the director of our emerging professionals group at Licensure. And that group includes architects, engineers, and interior designers. And so she is going to be able to tell us a lot about that. We also have AWA+D Hagigi, if I said that right, geez, I hope I did, is an associate principal and licensed architect at ZGF. AWA+D has a diverse body of projects spanning public and private sectors, such as schools, large mixed-use developments, and institutional projects, including California's largest net zero energy LEED Platinum building currently under construction. So I'm hoping she will be able to tell us what that is. She is a former Living Future Los Angeles co-facilitator, former AIA-LA co-chair, current AIA California Climate Change Action Steering Committee member, and current USGBC LA board member. Next, we have Sona Gavorkian. And Sona is the incoming president of AWA+D. So welcome, Sona. We're very pleased that you're going to be able to be part of this. And she is the founder of her own firm, SGAO, a Los Angeles-based multidisciplinary practice. She earned her MArch degree from SciArc and is a licensed architect. She is also a lecturer at Cal Poly Pomona, where she teaches first-year studio. And then lastly, we have Susan Suhar. Susan is a design principal interiors for HDR in LA and a certified interior designer. She is an award-winning professional with over 20 years of experience in health, life science, and workplace markets. She holds multiple certifications between LEED, WELL, and FitWell, and has long been committed to the practice of healthy built environments. In addition to leading the Los Angeles Interior Studio for HDR, Susan volunteers her time with IIDA, LA Business Council, and the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council. So welcome all of our panelists. We're very thrilled that you can be here. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Danny, who is going to, I gotta quit sharing, is going to kind of lead us off with a presentation about our program at Lionakis for emerging professionals. And so I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. So Danny, the floor is yours.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to introduce you to what the EP program is at Lionakis, because we kind of took a different approach than a lot of firms do. And along the way, towards the end, we'll start to focus a little more on licensure and how we handle that piece at the firm. You'll get to learn a little bit about the program, but you'll also get to learn about why we chose to do this and how we did it. So how it all began. Just like any other firm, we are chugging along, hoping people would get licensed along the way. But we are a multidiscipline, multi-office, multi-market firm. And one thing we realized is when it comes to things like mentorship and licensure, it's hard to have balance and consistency across all of those markets and all of those disciplines and make sure everyone's receiving the same level of support and encouragement in those things. And we realized by centralizing a program outside of a studio and making it a firm goal, that we would have a lot more success in prioritizing it and making it happen. Now, this came out of a leadership retreat group. The original group created the Lionakis Foundation, and then our group, which I was a part of, was charged with creating this. So this is kind of my list of how we made it happen at Lionakis. You'll notice my first one is the big, crazy, amazing plan. Because when you talk about mentorship and coaching and licensure and wanting to get your team out on more site visits and get them more engaged in projects that aren't their own and participate in more design charrettes and all of those things, it all sounds great. But at the end of the day, we have clients and we have deadlines and all of us are busy and we can all find a slice of the pie. But when you try to take the whole slice at once, it can be very overwhelming. So we had great ideas and we really failed at trying to launch them all at once. It was too much too soon. It's really hard to, in one instant, go from a very reactive mode to a proactive mode. So we took a big step back and we restarted. And we started with the fundamentals and we build from there. And that is a continuing thing we do. Now, one thing that's important for us is the EP program is run by design staff. It's not run by business services. It's not run by HR. Well, we would not be able to do this without HR. The people who make the decisions are designers. They're architects, they're interior designers, they're structural engineers. Our committee for EP, there is Carol's on it at a principal level. I'm on it at a project manager level as the director. but we have a lot of newly licensed staff that contribute to the program. So we're always looking for fresh blood that just got licensed, because as the testing process evolves, as the industry evolves, we change. When I went into the industry, we didn't do buildings in 3D. Now, 20 years later, everything's in 3D in Revit. So the needs have changed. A lot of times these days, for example, you'll see more of a need to learn how to do detailing, because our EPs are very good at working in 3D now because they came up in college in these 3D models, but they might need more help with detailing. So we try to always keep it fresh, always have the bulk of our committee be new staff that we rotate on a more regular basis. Facilitate their ideas. Going back to that thing where everyone needs something different. We're not here to decide what they need and put it on them. We like to have them tell us what they need and tell us what their big ideas are and make it happen. Involve all levels of staff. This is literally top to bottom. There are principals that give a presentation for EP every single year. There are project managers that do site visits for our EPs multiple times within one project that are dedicated site visits for that. And so we really take advantage of every level of staff because they really have something different to offer. It doesn't have to cost a lot to have a big impact. It's not really about the money. It's about being heard, and it's about engaging people on all levels and asking them what they need. And then always review, refresh, change, and grow. You can always take this back to many years ago when we all were required to read the Toyota Way, but it is still very relevant. We're always looking to better this program. We try things all the time without success. We try new pieces of the program every year, and sometimes it's great and everyone's like, let's do this again. And other times it's, wow, that didn't go at all how we thought, and let's drop it. And that's okay with us. We want to take those ideas and try. So the program is broken into 4 main components. We have mentorship, licensure, team building, and EP University. So that's how we manage it. I'm not going to go into detail on each one of those, but I will tell you within each category, we started with one small thing and then we added to it as it made sense. So since we're talking about licensure and certification, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in how we made the licensure decisions at Lion-AUCUS. So the first thing we had to ask ourselves again is, what is our philosophy on licensure? And it's like, yeah, licensure is good. There's no firm out there that is anti-licensure. We all know it's good, but what does that exactly mean? The first step is, well, we're going to tell people to get licensed and we're going to let them figure it out. And we said, no, that's not really, we really think we need to do a little more than that. So we started looking into what are the basics that we need, that our staff need to get licensed. So at Lion-AUCUS, this is our basic licensure and certification profile, if you will. We have architects, we have engineers, interior designers, and sustainability. And that's not that bad. We can organize this. Well, it quickly grows a lot more complicated. It really involves a lot of different things. And some people have priorities that are different. You have some people that are really passionate about LEED. Some people actually prefer NCIDQ, whereas some people prefer CCIDC. So there's a lot of different information out there. And again, we said, let's keep it simple, go back to basics. What is it really about? Regardless of the type, there are 3 things we have to address. Internship hours, if they exist for that particular discipline or certification, the money, and the exam time. Well, at Lion-AUCUS, we decided to cover all of those basics. So obviously, you have to do your internship hours. You have AXP. What did we do? We made it so let's set up Vision so they can track their AXP hours. So as they're logging their regular time on a project, they can very easily set what AXP category it's in, and then they can run a report at any later date. So it is integrated in our time card process, and it just makes it one step easier. We also take the point to at least once a year, sit down, go over their hours with them, and talk about what hours are hard to get, how they can work on getting them outside of the firm, and how we can help them get it inside the firm. So facilitating that conversation to make sure that it happens. Next, we have the money. Reimbursable, we reimburse fees. So you have the NCARB record fee, ARE exam fees, CAB exam fees. Kind of deep diving a little bit into architectural to go into a little more detail. But we are reimbursing all of these fees, and it has made a big difference in how much people are taking their exams, and it has been well worth it. When you look at how much one person generates in revenue, paying their exam fees to get licensed is such a small percentage of their revenue from 1 year. And last, exam time. Rather than having our staff try to squeeze it in on the weekend or try to find out when they can take a PTO, we allow our staff to take all of their exams during normal working hours, and we don't require them to use PTO to do so. They have a professional development budget where these hours can be billed. So that was the basics. So then we went back and we asked the question again, what is our philosophy on licensure? And we changed our mind. We didn't want to be about just the basics. We felt that licensure is a key component of professional development, and we want to play an active role in supporting our staff along the way. So we didn't want it to be an accounting function, and we didn't want it to just be a business services function. So what did we do? We sat down and we decided, what do people need? And these are the 6 things that we laid out. They need a better roadmap that will help them with study materials, guidance, encouragement, rewards, and celebration. So for the licensure roadmap, we decided to take advantage of our intranet and really lay out what the path is to licensure for each discipline. So each discipline at Lionakis has a licensure home that helps them find out what is the process, how do I get help with it, what are the study materials available, and who do I ask for help? And each licensure page has its own theme to bring a little fun to it. The architects have a architectural licensure tracking board that they can display at their desks so they can show how far they're going in the process. You can see the structural engineering page has a kids theme, and we use pictures of our own smiling and crying children to represent the steps along the way to becoming a structural engineer. Then we dove into study materials. We have an active study library in each office, and we also offer online program reimbursement for things like Black Spectacles. This allows staff to check out different things, and it allows us to have more materials available to them because we're not buying them on an individual basis. We have a library in each office and people are able to check it out. And one thing we've learned in COVID is these books are very expensive and it's not nearly as much to send stuff between offices. And so when we have something available in Sacramento, there's no reason we can't send it to Newport. So we've started even working in our office to make sure that those things are easier to get around. Next, we provided guidance, and this is more in person. We do have an in-house licensure advisors. We make a point to check in and make sure everyone has an AXP supervisor. So if someone is paired with a project manager or a supervisor that isn't licensed, we make sure that they still have a mechanism to get their AXP hours recorded. As I said, again, we do built-in AXP tracking, we do annual licensure check-ins, and we facilitate finding a study partner. Now the fun part. We use our intranet to provide a lot of encouragement, and we also have emails that go out every time anyone passes an exam, not just when they get licensed, but any exam along the way. So we've really made, it's a big deal to even pass an ARE or to pass part of your structural licensure exam. So we acknowledge those milestones on our intranet, and we give them a Lionakis store credit for some fun stuff so they can get a new t-shirt or anything like that. And so we make sure we are checking in along the way and letting them know that we know this is a long journey and we appreciate the steps they're taking along the way. And last, we have rewards and celebration. This is the next level of encouragement. So again, on our intranet, at our town hall at the end of the year, in our studio meetings, we're always making sure that we're acknowledging these licensure processes. You get, again, a bigger store credit. We have licensure and certification bonuses, and we make sure we celebrate. That celebration can mean different things in different offices. I was attacked with silly string. It smells. It was horrible. I wanted to go home and shower. And I saw it coming and tried to run away. So each studio has kind of made their own thing. The other thing, and I forgot to put it on here, is we make sure you get a promotion and a title change. We think that's really important to acknowledge that you have accomplished this, and you should see that in how we manage our titles. So that is the bulk of the licensure part of EP. And like I said, we really just started adding one step at a time, and it's been really good. Every year we start in January with a licensure kickoff. When it's COVID, we do it online. When it's not COVID, we do it in each office, and it's a happy hour at the end of the day. We have licensure advisors available, and we talk about what are the benefits of being licensed, and we try to do that as a reminder every single year. So that is Lionakis EP.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much, Danny. That is, again, one of the things that I really appreciate about Lionakis, and how much of an important thing professional development and licensure is. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is sort of kick into our panel and start off with a question for you all. And I am going to start with AWA+D, because I'm going to let Danny, not talk for a little while. And my question is, I would just like each of you to give a really short, what is your story? Why did you become licensed? How long after school did you get licensed? If you waited, why did you wait? But, just take a few seconds to tell everybody what your story is. And like I said, AWA+D, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks, Carol. I got to give it up for Lionakis and Danny for an excellent overview of your program. That sounds really great. So I started my licensure process about 3 years after I graduated with my Bachelor's of Architecture. I spent, at that point, I had worked at a couple of different firms and was just trying to find the right place where I could start my process. Surprisingly, a lot of firms still don't have a lot of support. It's really hard to either carve out the time or the budget, the money to just pay for the exams. So anyway, I was able to start my process about 3 years in, and it took me about 3 years to get through all the exams and get licensed. And that was essentially the launch of my career after that. It was a pretty important step in my career in terms of getting taken seriously, getting the recognition that I wanted, and being able to take that next step in my career. I'm sure you all recognize that as women in this industry, it's important to do all that we can to be taken seriously sometimes, and that's the unfortunate truth of it. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. It was definitely a lot of ups and downs. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and I guess I'm here to say that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to move to Sona. Sona, tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi, everyone. So I started, I guess, the process in 2006, where this is when I started recording my hours. And that was at a job between undergrad and grad school. And the reason why I started it then is because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be licensed, but I decided to record it anyways, just to have options in the future. And so after I graduated from grad school, which was 2010, I kind of, at one point, I remember I let it expire. And then somehow I was not punished, and I paid for it, and then they let me save those hours. And then 2 years later, I think 2012 is when I started taking the exams, and it took me until 2017 to pass the final exam. And so in between that time, I started working at a firm, and that's when I started taking my exams. And mainly, I think, not mainly, but one of the reasons why I started taking it is because they were paying for it. And even at that point, I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it, but they're paying for it, so why not? So I think that's a good motivation to have your firm pay for it. And so I think what happened is then when I quit working at that firm, I went on my own and started my own office. And the last 3 exams I took while I was on my own, and that was a little difficult because in the work setting, I had situations where I would kind of agree with my teammate that we're going to pass this deadline, and I'm going to take a month to study, or not a month, 2 weeks to study, and then and so my job was or workload was a little bit easier at that time. But then when I was on my own, it was really hard to tell clients that, sorry, I'm studying, I need to take time off from doing your project. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But overall, I think at that point is when I truly decided that I need to get my license, when I decided to go on my own, because I wanted to advertise myself as an architect. And my goal then became, I set myself a goal that by the time I'm 35, I'm going to get my license. Because at the time, I think I remember that the average age of an architect was like a licensed architect was 35. So I decided to try to be that average. And so I passed my final ARE exam, which is the national, one of seven of the national exams at 34. And then I took a year to just study for the California exam. And then I passed it, and I didn't pay for it until I turned 35. So I don't have to pay twice because you actually renew it when around your birthday. So that's my story.
Thanks, Sona. All right, I'm going to jump to Danny since she just put herself on. Give her time. And so Danny's story is a little different because you are a structural engineer.
I am.
And so, yeah, so please tell us your story.
So my story is actually a little bit delayed. I took longer than most of my coworkers. In the structural department especially, Licensure really wants people to be licensed. They think it's important and they think it has meaning, and they keep track of when you're eligible. So in engineering, you have to become a civil engineer for 3 years before you can even attempt to become a structural engineer in California. So for the civil portion of the process, I actually delayed it because my mom was sick and I wanted to prioritize it. And so, those are some of the decisions you have to make, is where was my priorities, and it wasn't getting my civil license, and it's definitely not something I have regretted. And then I decided to fail surveying twice, which is one tiny part of the civil exam. And so I just, and back then you could only take it twice a year. Yeah. So that was it. You could take it twice a year, and that was it for engineering. And so every 6 months I would torture myself. And then I became a civil engineer. And then I actually, again, delayed taking my SE exam, but for a different reason, which is there's a lot of stuff you have to cover on the SE exam. And I actually delayed it because I felt like I wasn't ready. I knew I had a project coming down the pipeline that would give me a lot of the experience I needed. And so I waited for it, and I actually passed it on the first time. So there can be a benefit to admitting when you're not ready. And it really, I feel it really makes a difference. Like, it really is different.
Yeah.
There are only I think I'm only I was like the 7,000th structural engineer. Like, there are very few structural engineers in the state of California. It's a very tight licensure. Like, my PE number is a really big 7-digit number, and my structural licensure number is a 4-digit number. So wow. Structural is a very, very small few of us. So it was really important to me to pass it. Cool. So my lesson is, do it in your own time.
Yeah.
And when you're ready.
Very true. Thank you for that. And then Susan, so I know that I'm going to save the licensure part for you because I have a follow-on question for you, so don't spill the beans. But tell us your story about becoming certified as an interior designer.
Yeah, so when I started off in school, I started with an associate's degree in interior design, and I was a little late getting into the program. I kind of took a meandering path getting into architecture and design as a career. I started in environmental studies, and but so I always wanted to be in the realm of doing something with the environment. But anyway, to fast forward, did my associates in interior design. What drew me was really the drafting, but I didn't really want to, I really wanted to focus on the interior environment. And from there is when I went into the School of the Art Institute and went into their interior architecture program. All the while I was working for VOA, which is now Stantec. So they were very accommodating with my schedule, so I could go to school and work at the same time. And it was 5 years after I had received my bachelor's in interior architecture that I got my certification, my NCIDQ. And I had my first child, so she was an infant. She just turned 1 when I took my exam. And so I remember how stressful it was. And I was thankful I had a mother close by and a husband that could just take my daughter for those last few weekends and days. I could just cram. And I remember just going to a library. I had to escape the house just to be removed from anybody calling my name. And yeah, so that was in 2005 that I completed the certification. And at that time, I had actually left VOA and was now at a boutique firm. And we were a boutique architecture firm getting really big projects. And the interiors group was small. It was just me, the director, and a design coordinator. And I knew at some point the director was going to be leaving and I wanted her job. And that was my motivation to get certified at the time I did, because I wanted to be marketable. I wanted to be considered for her position, and I wanted to be marketable and be put on the proposals as the director of interiors. So that was my big drive and motivation to do it when I did.
Very interesting. Thank you for that. All right, I'm about to launch another poll question. And this one I think is going to be interesting for us as well. And so if you can take a few seconds to answer this, I don't think that it's going to be very tough, just to see where everybody is. Because I think as we're waiting for the last of this, I'm going to do my follow-on question to Susan, because it leads me into my next question, which is why even get licensed? Like, I know a lot of people, firms don't promote. You can get promoted without being licensed. And so what's the value of being in, like, why would you even do it? And so Susan, I know your story. I'm about to share. I'm going to give this another 2 seconds. And I know that you're already accomplished and already an interior designer, but I heard you say that you're about ready to take the architectural exams. And I'm thinking, what, are you crazy? And so what, are you crazy? Like, what about that is valuable to you? I'm about to show this. Why are you doing that?
It's funny because I think when I took one of the last exams, I think it was the well exam, I said I was done taking exams. Done. And I think it's always been on what do you call it, bucket list, that to legally call myself an architect, regardless of me not wanting to be this expert in curtain wall details and roof membranes and stuff like that, with my concentration being interiors. But again, you know, and I want to be careful in treading on this, because the interior design group or interior designers as a whole nationwide in the United States, there's been 20+ years of advocacy to sign and seal in permit drawings within different state jurisdictions. And you look across the United States, and you could go to Nevada and I can sign, seal, and permit my drawings. In Texas, I can sign and seal. California, you cannot, and many other states you cannot. You know, it's more of a professional title registration. So, you know, it's, you know, and how that advocacy is moving, it's going to be slow and vary per state. For California, I expect that I will be residing here for many years to come. In California, as everyone knows on this call, is one of the strictest states with licensure. And again, this goes to marketability with HDR. You know, I think it'll open me and market me differently for the firm as being a licensed interior architect.
Got it.
Which there are, I don't even know if we have one in that actually considers them is a licensed interior architect, primarily, you know, focused in the interiors group. You know, it's licensed architect or licensed certified interior designer. So again, it's that motivation to kind of set a different precedence, set a different marketability, and really, you know, for myself, I think it's kind of been, again, just on my list. Let's do it. Let's get it done. You know, maybe when I retire, I will be still doing a project a year, because apparently I can't sit still. So.
That's interesting. Well, I think that is really interesting, and I commend you on taking the exam. I know we moved to California just in 2016, and I had been licensed for a long time. And in order to be licensed in California, I had to take the supplemental exam, and that was brutal. After so long not studying, you know, for any kind of exam, to kind of throw yourself back in it is tough, because I would highly recommend taking your exam while you still remember how to study after school. But Sona, I'm going to ask you the same question, because I know in talking with you, you thought about getting a license, kind of, sort of, but it really wasn't until you started your own firm that it became something that was important to you. But I also know the kind of projects that you do sometimes don't require an architect's seal. So what is it about the license that you thought was important, and what was the value to you to get licensed?
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I have a lot of reasons why I think people should get licensed, or I should get licensed, or I already have my licenses. It's because, well, I agree with Susan. I got tired of kind of trying to explain to people that I'm actually an architect, but I'm not actually an architect. I can't legally call myself an architect. And then in my when on my own, I realized that in my contracts, in my drawings, I could not say anything architectural. I could not describe my services as architectural drawings versus structural, because that was against CAB's, California Architect Board's rules. You cannot describe yourself with anything that says architectural. And so that was a little bit annoying. And so I think that's that and also being able to do different types of projects. So I'm going to paste a little cheat sheet that kind of shows what kind of projects you can do as a licensed architect, and what kind of projects you can do as an unlicensed professional. And it's limited to wood frame, single family, 2 stories, or I think a few units. And I think just how I realized early on when I was recording my hours that I don't know yet, but I want to give myself options. Now I don't know. I mean, when I was starting, I didn't know yet if I wanted to do beyond residential, but I wanted to give myself options. And now I'm actually really happy because I get to do commercial projects and projects that I would normally not get. And a lot of times residential clients are not, they're not knowledgeable as far as knowing the difference between licensed and unlicensed and who can do what. But I do have clients who definitely have hired me because I am a licensed architect. And beyond that, I think it's also helped me a lot. The study materials, they seem annoying at times and sometimes repetitive, but especially the California exam, I think it taught me so much that I did not know. And it really helps me. For example, recently I don't usually do construction administration, but for this project recently, the client asked me to do construction administration. And so I'm like, oh, I've heard of RFIs before. Let me open my exam books and look at what that means and how I even do it. And so I think it's actually like filing some information in your head that you may not need right now, but you will later. So it's really, I'm pretty happy that I've gave myself options to finally get licensed.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. So I'm going to jump to another question, and I'm going to ask AWA+D. We kind of touched on it a little bit. I heard Danny say something about it, but do you think having your license as a woman in this industry helps give you credibility? We're male dominated, and so I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I think it definitely does, especially if you're a younger female onset of your career. If you happen to make it throughout your career, 10 plus years of working and you've made your reputation and a name for yourself, then that's a different story, I think. But if you're early on starting out, I think it makes a big difference. Just even sitting in front of GCs or engineers talking, it definitely gives you that extra level of credibility that I do know what I'm talking about. And I think that, yeah, that's very helpful.
And I'm going to jump to Danny because I know that you and I have discussed this a little bit, but as an engineer, what are your thoughts on this industry? And of course, being a structural engineer, it's probably even less more male dominated than architecture. So what does being licensed mean for you?
So to give a little frame of reference for engineering versus architecture, when I took my structural engineering exam at Cal Expo about 6 years ago, I was the only female in the room. When I took my civil, which is the first step, it was, like 30-70. But I was kind of shocked. Like I kept looking around thinking like, I have to be missing the women. And I think in this industry, the reality is like, as a woman, you get pushed around a little more and you can be dismissed a little more, and having that licensure takes away that avenue. Like you don't want to give them that, you don't want to give anyone that avenue to go down. And one more example, I was out on the site and I was talking to a contractor and he kept expressing that he was worried about something. And I kept saying, it's not an issue, I'm okay with it. And he kept saying, well, I need to talk to your engineer. And he kept saying it, I need to talk, where is he, over and over again. And I finally said, you're looking at her. And so I think that licensure takes away, it's really important. And the other thing really quickly we haven't touched on is dealing with plan checkers. Plan checkers are required to be licensed. They have to be architects. They have to be structural engineers for structural, and they do view it differently. If they're having a conversation, structural engineer to structural engineer, it does make a difference. And so I think that's important to note as well.
I did not know that. Of course, that's a California thing. I did not know that.
I should say there's probably some cities out there that don't require it. But like when you're dealing with AWA+D, DSA, they have to be an architect or a licensed structural engineer.
That's a really good point. Okay, so it's poll time, people. It's poll time again. I am going to launch another one. And this one has to do with if you haven't started taking license, and I know some of you have, what would be the thing that would sort of get you to either continue taking your exams or to start?
It's an interesting question.
We'll see. We're getting
So if
less
we're already
answers.
licensed, do you still want us to answer this question?
Oh, no. Oh, we lost our, yeah, there was a question on this when we were setting it up. That was like, I'm already licensed. So no, you don't have to. Although you can, Meg, if you want to answer the
closed
question.
I submitted the answer as our emerging professionals would want to ask and would
There you
answer,
go.
which means you pay for it, which is what.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm gonna end this one. I'm gonna share the results. So, and I'm not surprised about this, but a firm reimbursing the cost, I know, is a huge deal, and it's a huge deal at Licensure. It was a huge deal when I was taking the exam, and it was. Unfortunately, you still had to front the money to take the exam, and you had to pass it in order to get reimbursed. And so it isn't like, you know, that you're not going to be out somebody somehow, but the fact that somebody can pay you back, because I know it's expensive. And especially when I was taking it, I wasn't making hardly any money at all, I felt like. And so that was really hard. So does your firm, when you were going through all of this, and I'm going to kick it back to Susan, when you started out, did the firm reimburse and pay for and help support you becoming certified, I guess, at the time, or is that something that the firm supported?
For my NCIDQ, not the study materials at the time.
Yeah.
That was all on me. But I believe they reimbursed for the exam itself. In this time, you know, and I'm now taking my AREs, you know, and I don't know if you recall this, Carol, you know, HDR reimburses you at the very end in passing. So you know, for your exam costs.
Yeah.
That was my question to Danny, actually. You know, I think most people, as I've heard, it's rare you have somebody pass all the exams. Usually you fail one or two of them. So is Licensure, are they paying for retakes on exams?
So we do, I will say we do pay as you go, so you don't have to pass all of your exams. However, at this time, we don't reimburse for retakes.
Yeah.
It is a debate we constantly have, though. We revisit that every single year. And we also revisit paying the registration fee up front.
Yeah.
And I will say there's a struggle to overcome. There's always those few people that kind of like take advantage and ruin it for the whole bunch.
Yeah.
But no, we focus on reimbursing for study materials over unpassed exams. Like we try to front load it and spend our money, making it easier to pass with less attempts.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're choosing to spend our money, but we do debate it on the regular.
And I will say there has been a lot of folks, you know, with younger employees that are ready to take their exams, but to front that cost of the exam itself and to risk, you know, it's to wait until you pass all of them to get reimbursed, or it's a bonus, and it's a put off. Yeah. You know, they have to wait until they feel that they're more financially ready to actually take those exams.
Do they have to pass all of them before they get reimbursed for all of them?
Yes.
Okay, we do one ARE at a time. So like if you pass the ARE, you're done. Same thing with structural. Like we reimburse the licensure application fees up front. So it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, that is
So
tough.
you get a step at a time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, because back in the day when I took the exam, you could only take it once a year, and it was in person, and it was all day, and you had to take all 7 parts all at the same time and pay for them all. And it was like, oh my God, it was awful. So I am so glad that now at least it's split up and you can sort of take a piece at a
Yep.
time. That makes it, but yeah, the reimbursement has got to be tough. What about you, AWA+D? Does ZGF, did the firm that you were working for, does ZGF support licensure by reimbursement or any other kind of programs within the firm?
I was gonna ask Carol if you took the verbal exam for
No, thank God.
CSE.
You know,
Okay,
though,
good.
you've heard me talk. I probably would have been better with the verbal. No, I took the sit down, and I took the supplemental exam. Just happened to take it right. Oh no, that wasn't it. I took the CCM exam right before the COVID shutdown. So it was in a weird location. But no, I took the supplemental exam. It was a 4-hour multiple choice. It was horrible. I hated it. And I was just so and I'm halfway through looking at the questions, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to pass this. I'm going to be, and then I'm going to have to take it over, and that will be worse. And that was the best thing that happened, is at the end when it's like, congratulations. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I don't ever want to have to take an exam again, because it's nerve wracking.
I have to add real quickly. So when I took the structural exam, it was 2 days that had to be back to back. So you had to take it Friday, Saturday, 2 8-hour exams. And it was around $1,700.
Oh, right.
So it was
Wow.
like,
Yep.
like
Talk about
it was
stakes.
a very expensive day.
Very expensive.
And so that only added to the stress of the whole situation, is knowing you have so much invested.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm
Anyway,
going. Oh, go ahead.
I've heard some horror stories about the verbal exams, but I'm glad you didn't have to do that, Carol.
I did not, and they got rid of those because I think they determined that those are fairly subjective, as opposed to really
Right.
testing what you knew. If you could talk your way out of it, it was yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so ZGF does have a pretty good professional development program in place, actually. When I was taking the exams at another firm that I was at, the best deal I could get was just getting reimbursed for the exams
Yeah.
that I passed. I wasn't getting any time off, any retakes, nothing like that, any study materials. I wasn't getting any of that.
Wow.
But as ZGF now, you know, you get 40 hours of time off just to study for the exams and take the exams, which is big because the exams are very time consuming.
Yeah.
I used to have to take time off from work or take PTO to take the exams, but it's really nice to have that extra 40 hours off on top of your PTO to just take the exams.
That's
And on
excellent.
top of that, we reimburse for the exams as you go. We also reimburse for up to 2 takes per exam. So if you happen to fail the first time, we reimburse for both times. But you know,
That's nice.
3rd time and 4th time is on you. So
Well, that's
hopefully
nice.
you won't get that far. But yeah, it's really nice. Times definitely have changed. There's a lot of support. We have a lot of study materials. We have subscription to Black Spectacles like Licensure does. We share a lot of resources, and we have study groups. And I did want to share that when I was studying for my exams, Sona and I actually happened to be in the same study group with not licensed yet. That was run by Doug at USC's program.
Ah,
That program, I mean, honestly, it was great just to have a cohort of people. At that time in my firm, I didn't have anybody else studying for the licensure for
Right.
some reason. It was great to have a cohort of people that you can meet with who would keep you accountable consistently. I think that was very helpful, and he's still running that program. So definitely highly encourage anybody wanting to get that kickstart to look into that program and signing up for it.
Thank you, because that leads me into my next question, which was do you have any strategies, any books, any things that helped you in taking the exam and passing the exam, And so I don't know what that program is. Could you put that in the chat of a day for the group, maybe? If
yeah,
you know what
I
it
think
is. Oh, are you?
Madeline just put something about it. It's not LY.
Oh, not LY. Okay.
Yeah, not licensed yet. And this one
Got
by
it. Got it.
Doug Noble.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
There's a Facebook group. You guys can Google
That's
it
excellent.
or search for it on Facebook.
Cool. Any others? Does any of the other panelists, like Susan for certification or Danny for structural engineering, any materials that were particularly helpful, any study groups, anything that helped you in passing it, anything that's helping you at the ARE, Susan?
I'm using Amber Book and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very visual. It's you can have the manual, the book, or use the videos. And I mean, it's everyone that's been using Amber Book as the study guided materials has passed.
Nice.
And the guy that narrates it, he just he has lots of accolades, and he's just a really good teacher instructor with the visuals that support it, and
Cool.
explains not just the memory retention. That's not the goal. He explains why. This is why
Excellent.
we do this. This is why it is this way,
Cool.
which is key to retaining it. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Is that a material that HDR provides, or is it something you
Just this year they are providing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that for
Excellent.
architecture, or are you talking about interiors? Because I know you do both.
It's for architecture. Yeah.
Gotcha.
For interiors, I've been out of that for a little bit. I should know.
So
I should know, but I don't know what the current study materials are.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only engineer, so I won't
Yeah.
bore you with that stuff, but I will tell you 2 pieces of advice just from running this program for so long. The first one is make yourself, especially before your first exam, make yourself sit down and do the full practice exam time.
Yes.
Don't yes, there's a benefit to sitting down and I'm going to do 3 problems a night. Make yourself sit down and experience it in the time limit you're going to have.
Yeah.
Because it really does change the way you look at it. Also, it's done on a computer now. So talk to people about how that works. Because, if you've only really taken exams with Scantrons before, ours is still handwritten. But it's kind of a different world as far as how do I go if I want to skip a question, just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And the second is, if you need help with anything structural, do not ask a structural engineer. I'm not joking. The language is so different. It's taught in such a different way, it will lead you astray. Find an architect who did really well on the structural section and ask them. Trust me, I have a lot of research done on this as an A. So I always say, if you have a question and the answer and you want me to explain the answer, I can do that. But if you just want me to answer a question, I'm going to give you the wrong answer. So those are my 2 tips.
So funny. Well, I'm going to go do we've got 1 minute, but I'm going to do the final. Sona, if you could, do you have any final words of advice for the audience taking the exam or getting ready to take the exam? Or about licensure in general?
I think it's how Danny described is start small. I know it's overwhelming to have all these exams and all of that path to go through, but what helped me is to have that final goal of 35 and then kind of breaking that down into what that means, how many I have to take each year to get there, and then from then on I split it into even smaller. Every day I had to read this much, and then I was feeling accomplished, and that helped me kind of feel like I am on my way to this big goal that I have. And so and I think I've also, what I've done is my first exam, where I took my first exam, I actually announced to everyone I knew that I'm taking an exam, so I can't hang out with you because I'm taking the exam. And from the sense of shame that if I failed, I have to tell everyone that I failed the exam, I actually passed it. So maybe
Very
that
nice.
also will help you to go through that route.
Very nice. Avide, what is your words of advice?
My word of advice is don't put too much pressure on yourself. I put a lot of pressure on myself to pass every exam the first time because it would be, waste of money and resources and time and effort, and every exam is so emotionally draining for me, not just intellectually in my brain, but just emotionally, because I invested so much into it. Give yourself the time to recuperate. It's okay to go at a slower pace. I had a colleague who finished all the exams in 1 year, and I remember I used to compare myself to him and think, what is wrong with me? Why am I so slow? How did he do it in 1 year? I'm taking 3 freaking years. What am I doing? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It just matters that you finish. So I would say take it at your own time, but keep going. Don't stop. Once you're on a roll, then you just keep it going.
Excellent. Susan, throwing it to you.
Well, I just appreciate what Avide just said, because speaking from years, doing my NCIDQ, but now in the throes of taking my ARAs, people that recently completed it keep saying, oh, you just need to take all of them at once. And I don't have the bandwidth, I think, to do that amount of studying. And I'm wondering, how are you able to do that amount of studying? And so I think it's to kind of go back to what you're saying is know your pace, respect your own pace. And, I think the fact that anybody's considering and feeling they're ready to undertake these exams is a big congratulations on the first step of signing up and taking that. And I think it's courageous, because we're all busy. What we do for a living this isn't a clock in, clock out 9 to 5 job. And, it takes a lot of extra hours and extra brain power after a day of where I know all of us here are exhausted. So I think just taking that first step and going at the pace that you need to go is respectable, and stay encouraged. Find folks in what Sona has said. Accountability, I think, is big, and this is my first public outing of me taking my ARAs. Only 2 other people I have told.
Oh, nice.
in the firm.
Oh God, I let the cat. So sorry for sorry.
No,
I did.
This is good.
Yeah. Now you're really accountable.
Yeah,
Well, I want to.
It may take me 3 years. So
Carol, can I add one more
Yes,
thing?
absolutely.
I just remembered because it's been a while. One other thing that was helpful to me is to reward myself after every passed exam.
there you
So
go.
believe it or not, I bought a pair of shoes after every exam that I passed.
Nice.
I have
Nice.
9 pairs of shoes that have a very strong meaning for me that I will never get rid of.
Do you remember which
love that
which
one.
pair goes with which exam?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. That's nice. I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking part in this. This was really terrific, and I think you gave everybody a lot of good information and a lot of reasons why you should become licensed. Anybody who's going through the exam, stick with it, persevere. I like what Susan said. You're courageous. It's hard work. But it's worth it in the end, and it is something that you should be proud of yourself for attempting and for doing. And so I congratulate everybody who started. I am going to do one screen share because I want to make sure that that maybe I am that we have got loads and loads of programs that are coming up, and our next program we have a whole calendar of events for licensure for mentorship this year. We're very, can you see it? Yeah, we're very excited that we've got all of this stuff coming up, and so we just want everybody to be aware of all of the great programs that we're going to continue to have for AWA+D, and really appreciate that you attended tonight. And know that we will be sending this material out. I will send a copy of this, but then also we'll send a link to the recording that I think we're still recording. Maybe we never stopped. Yay! But I think that this was really great. And I just want to thank everybody for attending. And I think that we're going to call it a wrap. Thank you very much, panelists. We really appreciated your time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Carol.
Thank you.